Hi, Vidisha. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am very glad and happy to invite you for a very special chat for Ibadat by Baatein. So, could we begin with a small introduction on your end, though I know you're somebody who a lot of people look up to, myself included. But just for our audience, if you could tell a little bit about yourself.
Chhaya, firstly, thank you so much, and I'm very happy to be part of Ibarat. In terms of answering your questions, I'll try to do my best, I promise you. Well, a little about myself. I don't know, I think there are several people within anybody, and like that, there are several people within me. So I am, yes, of course, I work in the industry and I have really worked very hard to get to the place where I am. But I have juggled a lot of careers within the media industry. I was the youngest associate director for ESPN Star Sports, which is a sports company into hardcore sports. So that is something that I taught myself. Went on to be a part of BBC World, where I worked, again, very young and whatever, got that opportunity and tried to explore that to the fullest. Set up a business which went up to about 300 crores. And then again, had a baby, so had to leave all of that. So I've juggled several careers within my career, within the media industry, and I have enjoyed every bit of it. But I think the most important part and the most beautiful part of my career has been that I have always been a part of the sunrise industries, and I have always learned something new along the way. When FM happened to the country, then I was head of programming, national head of programming for 6 to 7 stations of Media Today broadcasting. That was a completely different part of media where I was in charge of the entire editorial responsibilities. So it's been a great journey. And then, of course, in corporate communications and PR, which is a completely different lens in terms of how you not just build, but also help to protect the reputation of the companies that you work for, that you work with. So it's been extremely, very, very enjoyable. Besides that, I'm a mother. I'm a mother to a son who is, well, he should have graduated by now, but for COVID, there are the exams, the decision on that is still pending. But he's a postgraduate candidate for the MBA program at UCL, and I'm extremely proud of that. I'm a single parent. I'm a singer, a theatre person, a voiceover artist. What else? I've acted in films, television, all of that. So yeah, so many things, and I'm trying to revive my music, right now, because that's something that I definitely want to get back to. So yeah, I write. So I don't know if that is a complete introduction or not, but yeah, various parts, and I like to explore most of them. So yeah, here I am talking with you.
My God, I mean, I was just, what thought was coming out. Like, usually, whenever I look at my mom and I see how such a super lady that she is, and mothers, I would say, and I would say women per se, we don't realize how much work we do because there are so many parts of different lives that we are juggling. And I often realize, and I so much learn from my mom as well, that how do you fit so much into, just one clock hour or one day that we see. And it's also very fascinating that I at least try to learn something new every single day, and that's something which I can see in you as well. Of course, you're way ahead, and of course a mentor to me as well. But the fact that you're even despite having such a hectic schedule, you're also trying to go back to music. And I happen to hear one of your, I would say, voiceover pieces on social media, and I would like you to perform a little bit towards the end if you're comfortable. But it's very fascinating to learn that how creativity and productivity has played a different role in your life. And of course, it is subjective and very personal to different people as well. So coming to my next question, I would like you to answer this after a lot of thought. But when we're growing up, so of course we have our phases, right? Academics, so we're in school, then college, then post-grad maybe, and then we step into the real world, and then it's the next chapter where you're continuously climbing up but also learning a lot. So I think the definition of productivity also changes as we grow up. We're taught something different in the comfort of the four walls that we spend our 12 years in. Then, of course, college is slightly, I would say, expansive. You take more ownership, you take more responsibility, productivity, the definition itself changes. And then you step into the real world and you realize that, it's starting from scratch once again, because this is completely different than, I would say, the comfort zone that you belonged in. So I would like you to know, how has the definition of productivity for you changed over the years? And you remember the incident or experience or moment when you realized, okay, this is more hands-on now, or this is not something what we were taught or prepared for?
So, Chhaya, firstly, thank you for saying such nice things about me. Really, my individual take on life has been that it's been fun. Every day has been fun. Every day has been really, I set out with a purpose to enjoy my day. And if that means that, you get the most out of yourself and that is what is most gratifying, then so be it. So throughout my school and college, I was less at school and less at college and more at, we used to have the Doordarshan Kendras and TV centers and radio stations and all that. So I spent most of my life there, growing up among people and just, doing stuff. So all of that. And, activity, I will not say activity trap, but it has a different addiction. It has a different fun to it. Once you get used to doing a lot of things, then you don't want a life which is slow, where things don't happen, or when. So it's that, I think it's the adrenaline rush. It's what you're seeking, really. So I think that in a large part that explains, where I come from and what is the kind of mindset. Um, Coming to how is it that we explore productivity and creativity at different life stages. I will say that when I started out, we didn't have mentors, For example, and I definitely want to congratulate our generation really for being the parents that we are to the next generation of children. Because we didn't have anyone to guide us through. We were, I think, not bad mentors to the next generation, whether it was at work or whether it was at home. I think we did a fair job of giving them the independence, letting them express themselves, as well as at the same time, knowing a lot, guiding them. Also, and I'm totally cognizant of the fact that I'm going to appear to sound like a very, very old person, but I must accept that this is the generation.
Old with experienced.
Sorry?
Let's replace the word old with experienced.
No, it's perfectly fine, because there is so much that one has picked up on the way, and it's been such a lovely, enriching journey. So old is also fine. So what really has happened is that ours is the generation that has seen the laid back times of our parents, where they knew nothing, where there were only a few scripted professions that children would go to, and we have come out and seen satellite television take over the country and the world. We have seen FM radio, happen to people's lives. We have seen technology really be all pervasive and take over lives as we are experiencing now. So I think ours is the generation which has been most open and also exposed to a lot of change across every decade. And it has happened in an all-pervasive way, which is, given us the kind of exposure. And therefore, in order to, when you're working, you are in step with, what is really happening in the world. And especially if you're connected to media, you definitely are in the center of it, right? So I think that education has been very, very helpful. And we have been able to guide ourselves and guide those who are around us and also learn along the way. And it's been a very quick game of adapting to the various changes that have, suddenly happened to our lives and all of that. So to that extent, I think we are a tad better than, our parents. In terms of productivity, we have grown as things have happened to us. we have evolved with the times. Um, there wasn't when I started my career, a graduation was enough really. You didn't really have to have a master's. You did not, MBA was very new. And MCA and although, those were even newer. So, in fact, you might be surprised to know that I did my MBA after a good 10, 15 years of, in my career. So, after a very fulfilling and rich career, I went back to school. And in my class, I had, from around the world, I had about 50 nationalities in my class. And most of them, the majority, the average age of the class was 26, 27 years. What I learned from them, being in step with where action really happens. And I was, of course, older to them in the class. But that was such a wonderful experience of going back, learning from the generations, and understanding really what really happens, their way of working. It's just so fast, so progressive, and their openness of thought. It's just something that I took away, and it's really been a great asset to me at my workplace as well. So that is one part where I think educating yourself across times, that is actively seeking to learn and adding to yourself, that is something which is important. And I'm guilty of this, what I'm going to confess to you now. So even though I was in touch with a lot of creativity in my fields, I wasn't the performer that I am inherently. And that is something that I missed because I was on the business side of things. So I wasn't in touch with the creative side of me. Of course, the creativity was happening in the business, but not in terms of my expression, which is my music, my writing, my directing plays for children, the theater that I do, all of that. So I think one should not lose touch with that. One should always stay in touch with that because that is one part which brings you alive, which is something that really makes you alive. I don't think I can say it any better. So that. And now with COVID, I think that awakening has come in, where I know that I have to just go back to it. It's just too beautiful not to pursue the various, creative parts which may be there in me, may not be there. I don't know. But I want to express. I should not deny myself that chance. So yeah, so I think that part of it neglect, which I need to course correct, and some part of it which you naturally tend to pick up on the way. Have I answered your question or have been all over the
Very
place?
well, profoundly, I must add. I was just so engrossed in it. And I was just thinking, like how I think we develop these hobbies. For example, I took music classes personally. I also took dance classes and then sports and basketball and everything. But I think at least maybe the early 20s or so, when we start growing up and I would say start getting exposed to or working in the real world, all of these things take a backseat. And I
Yes.
think maybe it's our growing up years or what we are taught or what we perceive. We believe these to be all secondary items and they eventually they take a backseat and we don't realize the value they add to a life as well. I mean,
So Chhaya, societally we are kind of told to pursue a profession which looks or sounds like a profession, right?
yeah.
It's
I think that's also changing now. You rightfully said. I mean, my parents have played a huge role in supporting me. Not in any other way, but just moral and that support and that courage and that hope that they had that yes, I can do something of my own. And I
yes,
still remember I was working elsewhere, and one day unfortunately, I had a mental breakdown, but it led to a breakthrough. I came back and I was just in tears because I felt that, I was meant to do something different and I can do something different. I have that in me and all those things. And I just felt that if I don't try it right now, I will just I might just lose the spark eventually. So I remember I just kept crying to them and I was trying to make sense of what was happening on my own. But of course, being parents, they could not see me cry. So they kept asking what's happening. I'm like, give me some time, let me figure it out, and then I will, tell you what's happening because it's very unclear for me. So eventually the next day when I had some clarity, I actually went to them and I told them, this is my plan, this is what I want to do. I need some time to figure it out entirely, but I would like you to give me a shot. Now, it so happens that my parents are also entrepreneurs. So
Wow.
yeah, so they both graduated from IIFM, Institute of Forest Management, and then apart, like, of course, had their own journey of working in different companies, but then eventually came together to start something of their own, which they're still doing as well. So I think they understood that why that encouragement was required, and how what the thrill and I say the learning experiences of doing something of your own. But they were also wary of, I would say, the chasms and the worries. So they asked me two questions. One was going to bankroll it because there's no money coming from home. I was like, of course, that has to be the plan. And second was, they said, have a 1 year plan, because that's the time we're going to give you. Take 1 year. By end of the year, we're not looking at this turnover and we're not looking at these many number of clients. We're looking at growth and consistency, that you want to try something and you eventually reach there. So I said, absolutely fine. I think I was 23, no, 24, I'm sorry. So just about I turned 24 and I decided to give it a year. And by the year's end, I could see that I mean, there are still a lot of, I would say, ups and downs in learning, but they did support me a lot. I completely agree with you. They wouldn't have gotten that exposure or push or knowledge from their parents. I mean, my nani and dada, they had a very different background and knowledge base. So definitely, which brings to my next question I wanted to ask you. So now,
Chhaya, is it possible for me to just,
yeah,
add
of course, of course. I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
about, and I'm sorry to interrupt,
No, no, no,
but
no.
something very critical. And I think, as life throws its curveballs at us and, we go through the various challenges and try to, understand it first and decipher it and then kind of come to terms with it and all. One learning that I've had throughout my journey, I'm sure everybody has their, share of challenges, adventures, all of that. But one of my learnings, and I strongly believe in it, is that every trauma, every misadventure of life, I think those are opportunities, and I'm not just saying it because it may sound cliched or bookish or something, but those are really opportunities when you've got to, do something extremely positive and constructive that you never imagined you would do. So if it were to go and climb the Mount Everest and train for it, perhaps what I'm trying to say is that your goal to trump that particular trauma or that particular misadventure or conflict, challenge, whatever is the setback that there might be, I think the goal has to be completely, at another level, at another zenith. Because you cannot at that point in time be ordinary. You cannot be fighting that just as an ordinary person or, just trying to grapple with it. No, you just have to chart uh, another course of action, which is maybe unthinkable, unimaginable, impossible to, normal, common knowledge. But you just have to go and do that. And then I think you create a new road, which is a lot lovelier than whatever it is. That is where productivity, creativity, I think all of it that merges and gives you a path. I think it's true for you. It's true for me. Um, your sense of doing something on your own, giving expression to what is there in your heart, and uh, giving the community a chance to express. Creating platforms for them to come together and express. I think those are wonderful things, which are so lovely. But they've definitely grown out of, like you said, a moment where you possibly wanted to try out something. So, yeah.
Of course, absolutely right there. And as you know, like when people ask me about just the journey, though, of course, I completely agree, and I believe there's a long way to go. But I also feel that productivity is not just about your positive evolution. It's not just about the milestones that you've gathered, or I would say the growth that typical charts might project that you've reached or have, I don't know, headed towards. But I also feel that we might not have to valorize failure, but we also need to speak about it. When I talk about failure, I'm talking about the learnings that are attached to it. I believe if I'm humble today, if I'm cognizant of the world today, or whatever I believe I am, while of course, as I said, learning is it's come part of it. I feel it's because I learned something the hard way. If it all came very easy to me, or if it all came, like on a platter, or it was all, I would say, victorious, or get going somewhere as success is defined, I wouldn't have learned the things that I've learned today. So I think as leaders, I would like to ask. Yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
No. I said also value.
Yeah,
Value
no, of course.
because it's out of your sweat and blood. It's so much more precious. Yes, absolutely. No, please go on. I've interrupted you far too much.
Not a conversation, since it has to get nurtured and grow like that. I want to ask you, of course, you are, I would say, in a leadership position. I'm not just talking about where you are professionally today, but also I feel leadership in terms of that you've really scaled the journey. I mean, if you reflect back on your own journey, you of course have created so much experience, so many memories, so much knowledge in this journey of course, in the field of media and otherwise as well. What I want to know was there any experience in your life, or only if you're comfortable to share, or I mean, if you can share it with us, was there any experience that actually taught you so much more than you would say some, like some symbol of success or some award or anything else like that? Because I feel like how you climbed after a fall really makes you stronger. I personally believe that. And for me, I know I've shared it with you, I'm a cancer survivor. So while cancer for me would be considered a setback by a lot of people, but I also value cancer only and only as a very, I would say, strong and very powerful teacher. The amount I learned from cancer is something, of course, no other person or no other individual or entity or experience could have taught me. So is there any experience in your life, it could be as subjective to it as it is to you, that taught you so much more and turned out to be a very valuable teacher in your life, if you're comfortable sharing it with us?
Sure, Chhaya, I wouldn't know where to stop actually. There are so many experiences.
But if maybe a couple of them pop out in the multitude of experiences.
Okay, so, marrying someone who you thought you love, and you're very young, and I married very young. And when I married, in our time, we were very innocent as well. Even at 2021, we hardly had any exposure to, what people were like or what the world was like. We didn't know much, really. And so when it was almost a dream come true for any girl, and that's the most precious thing that you pursue with everything, to the exclusion of everything, which is what I'm saying, that I kind of did not pursue anything else at the cost of that marriage. However, professionally, I did extremely well in terms of the normal metrics of take home, salary, designations, X, Y, Z, whatever. And for whatever reason, that did not last. The marriage, the relationship obviously did not last. There were complexes, comparisons, difficulties, lack of growth, or lack of keeping pace, X, Y, Z, whatever. All of this analysis I can do today. At that time, I was only busy trying to save it, which eventually didn't get saved. I put myself down a lot to be able to, make the rest of them believe that everything is just fine. But I was innocent enough not to understand that they were sharp to see that I was putting myself down, and that there was perhaps a mismatch at several levels, or whatever. So pursued that with all my passion and everything, but it did not remain. Getting over that took me almost a long time, almost 2 decades, and the closure only came with the death of my ex-spouse to me. So that was something, but so that was something that I really had emotionally had a big problem getting up from. But every day is a new day. I mean, you have to still pursue. You have a you have a child, and his life is at stake. So you just have to continue to do whatever you do to the best of your abilities, uh, because there is a life which is far too precious to just not care for, because you're crying over your own spilled milk. So that's something which was a little bit of a hard run. Then of course the usual, even when you climb, you have the usual jealousies of colleagues, and I'm one person who puts myself absolutely wholehearted into anything. Um, I don't know if it's coming through or not. Even in this, I think this conversation for me is a very passionate conversation. I would be giving it all that I have. So
I've also seen that in our conversations as well. I mean, this might have been what, our fifth or sixth conversation overall, if I'm not wrong.
yes,
And again, it's not flattery, absolute honesty, that I have felt a connect with you. I think it was more the connect. What I mean by the connect was that I could, consider you somebody whom I could learn a lot from and speak very comfortably with. So I
you're
think,
very, you're very generous.
no, but it's true. I think it's eventually in how you not only conducted yourself, but also how you make the other person feel comfortable. And I mentioned this to you yesterday as well. You make somebody feel comfortable in your presence. And I truly believe that's a mark of a true leader, which is why when you asked me why I would like you to be a part of this series, I did mention it that I always have looked up to leaders who, don't, who of course use their position to only help or further somebody else, but also to teach somebody else as well. So I think that's very rare, and I feel that's what marks the difference. Some will stand out and some will just be one of the many. So it's true, and I think it of course comes from you altogether, so you should applaud yourself for that.
Thank you very much, Chhaya. Thank you. Chhaya, the usual misogyny at workplace, jealousies. Um, I've always faced these kind of things like jealousies. I have never taken notice of them because I put myself wholeheartedly into stuff. If the environment, feels threatened, I really cannot do much. I just want to do my job well. And really, it's never at the cost of anybody else. It never has been at the cost of anybody else. In fact, I would carry people along, and eventually they would say, but see, but there have been those kind of things. Then the usual, the layoffs, which have been there through the career graphs, maybe, or you are having to lay off people, or you are having to help people out. I mean, those are setbacks also. Those are not easy to deal with. A person who's working with you till yesterday, and today you have to tell the person to go. Those are difficult decisions. Um, yeah, those, and then, but I think every time it's been just that, go back, study something else, pick up something else, which is where you can challenge yourself. I think that in your personal leadership, to keep growing and to keep challenging yourself, to keep learning something new. And I understand that I'm sounding perhaps bookish and cliched and all of that. No, but really, in the essence of it is very, very important. It's very important. And work is extremely therapeutic. So, and it is so enjoyable. I mean, the whole journey. I do not believe that there is a work-life balance, or that, there has to be. Of course, with COVID, those things are also changing for me. But what I'm saying is that as long as you enjoy what you're doing, and if the work is mundane or boring, you need to invent ways to keep yourself occupied in that, to keep yourself immersed in that. So I think it's a lot about how creative you are also, in terms of finding that joy in whatever work it is. You need to be agnostic at some point in time to be able to, enjoy it. Cannot be that I only love to present. I also have to be good at copy, and I also have to be good at X, Y, Z, maybe, typing Excel sheets if I have to, because that's the demand of the job. But finding joy in that, immersing yourself fully, I think those are things. Yeah, so with every setback, the usual, those have happened, yes. The divorce has happened. Yeah. So death, divorce, dilemma, jealousies, all of that, Chaya, all of those have happened. But now, having come to this, I just think that you need to apply yourself every day and continue to grow yourself. More important, you know, now also, and on an everyday basis. Just have to keep doing it because all these things keep coming and going. Layoffs and divorces and diseases and stuff. All you can do is you can work on yourself, and you need to find a way to keep yourself happy. So as long as that is there, you're set. You're fine.
Oh, again, like very, I would say very well explained as well, and also very raw there as well. So hats off to you. I was, it's a while ago, somebody, sorry, I think
No, I said thanks.
So I was, yesterday somebody was sharing this picture with me. I know it's nothing very new. It's been there in the internet space for a while now. If you see a graph of how your lifeline or how your heartbeat goes, so it's like up and down and up and down. So somebody told me that like life is that there are certain ups and then there are certain downs, because that's also exactly how a graph is. If these ups and downs were not there, then your life would have been flat. Just yeah, sorry. So yeah, no, again, of course, very well said there. You mentioned, of course, COVID when you were in your last answer, and I wanted to know how the pandemic per se has either halted or I would say modified your understanding of your own creativity and productivity, or has challenged the definitions that we keep evolving on our own. School mein kuch padha tha, college mein kuch padha tha, but nobody gave us a rule book that something like the pandemic would come. And it's been 5 months now, if I'm not wrong. March 17th, I remember my company went into a work from home mode. And that's how it's been. I mean, I'm wearing shorts below my shirt, but I have a half shirt over here. So we've even, I would say, redefined how our clothing would be in the work from home mode. But yeah, I was actually curious to know how creativity and productivity has either come to play or has changed the way you understood them, especially keeping COVID and the pandemic and the lockdown in mind.
Yeah, so Chaya, I'd like to table several thoughts with you, and none of them are right or wrong or whatever. They're just there. They're several thoughts altogether. So I love being with people. So, that people connect is important. COVID definitely shut down that, looking at people face to face and having conversations and all. And even though everybody's taken to the online mode and we have our conferences and meetings and webinars and all of that every day, I think it cannot replace really the human touch. Oops, it's so wrong to say touch right now, but so it cannot replace that one-on-one bond. And these are poor seconds. So I think there is certain merit in, and I hope things do improve and people do go back. However, one thing is very clear, and this is the second thought, is that offices really need not put up so much of cost for infrastructure. There is a lot that this time has taught us can happen, remotely. So, that's something that organizations across the world are rethinking, and productivity will shape up in some other form or format, and those things are evolving. So I think this time has already forced that on us. The other thing that this time has already forced on us is the digital literacy. Even the people in the remotest corners of the country know that their other cousins in the metros are getting across to each other on phone, Skype, whatever, FaceTimes of the world and all of that, Zooms. And therefore, there are those ways. And the good part is that people adapt to technology very fast. So as long as it benefits them, I was in Dubai for a year when I was studying, and there is a huge labor population which is illiterate that goes to Dubai. Just to give you an example of how people take to technology. And they had to transfer money. They couldn't read or write, but they would transfer money through phone and through Western Union, whatever. they were not educated, but the technology that really had a way of getting around them, and they learned what they had to, what they needed. So technology is very fast, it enables people, empowers people. So we're seeing that in more shape and form. So many new businesses have opened up, so many. So those are very good parts that I'm extremely proud of and happy about, that there are so many women who are getting empowered, who are opening their, small little cottage industry, and they're selling through the various online avenues that there are. The third thought um, is definitely, when it comes to me personally, I think I've welcomed this. And I don't mean to sound frivolous. I'm aware of the kind of pain that it has caused amongst the people who haven't had the resources. And I think it's brought a lot of that stark reality, onto the surface, that we haven't, as a country, as a people, we haven't really spared thought for the most vulnerable communities, I think, and there is a lot that needs to be done there. You and I doing a little bit here and there, I'm not sure has a long-ranging, large-scale implication. At a policy level, a lot of changes will have to be brought in, and the writings on the wall. So that bit is extremely clear. Coming to the personal, and the fourth part of it, coming to my personal bit, I think I could get, contradictory as it may sound, I could easily get used to this kind of a life. It gives me the flexibility of reading. It gives me the flexibility of cooking, something that I thought I used to hate, but I discovered that I'm not such a bad cook after all. It gives you new wings for creativity, because you just are. Some bit of discipline is required. Sometimes we manage that, sometimes we don't. But yeah, overall it's been a good run. Managed to read about 7 or 8 books. I managed to write a little, things that I've always been meaning to do. I've not done 100% productivity that it could have happened. Hasn't happened, but yeah. But it's not been bad for me personally. I've not missed dressing up and going to office. No, it's okay.
That's something I've heard from a lot of people, that even people who are interviewed for this as well, that, there was always a lot of things that were kept aside and never found time. So even today, I feel that a lot of, I used to read comparatively a lot more while I was in college and school. And I used to love Calvin and Hobbes and Shakespeare. And my granddad is, of course, a storyteller himself. So he used to recite a lot of stories. He still has a diary where he listed out all those story titles that he's read out to us, especially before he went to bed. So Sheikh Chilli Ki Kahaniyan, Akbar Birbal, Lal Bhujakkad. You can name the story, and there was there, and they became the first, I would say, impression of what the world outside is and what values are: wisdom, loyalty, honesty, courage, growth, so on and so forth. But it's true that this pandemic, it has, of course, affected people in different ways, but somehow the opportunity in the crisis has been that we have found time for things that we didn't have time for earlier. Because, of course, we're saving time on commute, on dressing up, and, of course, you're in your comfort zone, right? You're in the comfort of your home, and you're able to know that, okay, I can balance both. True. But what I want to... Yeah, please.
Sorry.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Initial days of the lockdown, it was very difficult for people who work at regular offices to come to terms with the pandemic, and the way that it forced to work from home. And I wasn't any different. It happened to most of my colleagues, and it happened to the leadership and everybody in the organization. So initial few days, I would say about a month, was extremely tough in trying to work out a balance between when to cook and when to go back to, doing your work, and the demands. Everything was overlapping one over the other, and it was very tough. But I think steadily everybody kind of found a rhythm. Organizations also put down certain basic guidelines that, you cannot call between a 5 to a 6, or you cannot so-and-so day is a holiday and it's really a holiday. So those things have really helped. So I think some bit of sensitivity and thinking on parts of organizations, that's been really, really nice and critical.
No, of course. And I think even organizations are still learning to adapt. So I
Yeah.
eventually, I think that has to be inculcated, that we will adapt to the times and we will adapt as times progress, because what rule or rule book you had about 10 years ago will not be applicable today.
Nothing. Absolutely.
I mean, with pandemic, there was no rule book at all. You sort of went into it heads on, and you've just literally learned from it every single day. This is how things have to move forward from here onwards. But also, the pandemic, I think, has allowed a little bit of creativity to spurt from here and there. And I wanted to know, is there something which you, as a personal goal, or as a personal, I don't know, something that you always wanted to learn, like you mentioned about music? So, was there anything that you really wanted to do, maybe all your life, or because of a very hectic work schedule, were not able to focus on? And the pandemic has allowed you to give some time to that as well. And if it's what it is, and if it's music, can be requested to sing something, because I know you have a beautiful voice.
So various books that I've been meaning to go back to and done that. Writing, which is my lifelong ambition, because I know what books are inside me, but I will have to take them out. So that process is WIP. And of course my music, which I've always wanted to pursue, but life took over and I let life take me over, and I was grappling with understanding what it was about and stuff. But I think it's also got a little to do with the life stage that I'm in right now, where I think that with the with the time that I got to spend with my son, which is perhaps the longest, because he's been in boarding schools and I've been always working till 10, 11 in the evening every day. So time spent has been very little between us, but I think it's very God sent that both of us, we could spend a lot of time together, 4.5, 5 months together. That's, I think, been the longest in his adult life and in my life. So that, then the piece of going back to my music. Are you sure about this? You really wouldn't?
If you're comfortable.
Okay, sure, I'm comfortable. You okay?
Yeah. Go ahead. So just some stupid mail came. Sorry.
So I sing Punjabi folk and a lot of Sufi within that. A lot of Punjabi folk is a lot of Sufi. So that's also a subject of my interest. I research that a lot. So I'll sing you a Sufi kalam that I've recently recorded at home, but I'll sing it again. ते दुख दिया पूनिया हाय मैं जो जो कती जामा ते गुण पैया दुनिया कत सकदी ना कत सकदी ना कत सकदी ना वे कत सकदी ना बललिए कुड़िए ते तेरी पूनिया दी परियो चिंगार मेरे दिल विचों वे मेरे दिल विचों उठदी है भूत आया मैनू याद आमदा सुन चल के दी मिठी मिठी गूत आया मैनू याद आमदा सुन चल के दी मिठी मिठी गूत. Thank you.
I really have goosebumps. You have a beautiful voice, Vidisha. I could see the amount of passion and just, I mean, it's so, I'm speechless and it's very hard to make me speechless.
Very kind. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was beautiful. Whenever we meet, I was in an offline setting. I would love to sing the song with you. I also love to sing. But though I'm not going to sing right now, I'm a little camera conscious.
At least a line or two. Come on, go for it.
Okay, only for you though.
Only for me, I'm privileged. Thank you.
लग जा गले ये फिर ये हंसी रात हो न हो शायद फिर इस जन्म मुलाकात हो न हो. That's it. That was only for you.
Very beautiful.
Thank you.
You're very surreal and very lovely. Very nice. Thank you.
So both my mom loves to sing as well, and my grandmother, my father's mother, she also used to be a professional singer. She sang, I think, for a very long period of her active work life at the Air India radio. So she used to sing on air, and so I think it just sort of became a little hereditary. And then we also took classes way back though. Yeah.
I understand that this interviews happen all in English, but charcha rehna chahiye, as they say in Hindi. Otherwise you're barren inside. Otherwise, where do you get life from? How do you breathe?
Oh, it's true, and I think whenever I feel very bogged down, or very stressed out by something, I literally just start singing because that's always, or I start writing. I mean, I have this a stack of diaries which are very, I would say, like these are hidden gems that I found out. And because you love to write, I would like to recommend a place to you. It's called the Recycle Rickshaw. It's a very beautiful, small, just one store in the whole country. It's Gulmohar Enclave. So I think if you go towards Gulmohar Enclave, where the market is, there's this one shop. So they basically make everything out of recycled paper. And when I talk about everything, I mean about table mats, vases, lampshades, diaries, sketchbooks. So the diaries, and they're very beautiful. Plus, of course, they recycle, so they're eco-friendly as well. So I always get my diaries from there and other stuff as well. There are a lot of stuff which you chart papers, very beautiful ones. So because you love to write, so I would maybe, if we ever are able to meet after the pandemic, I'll gift one to you. You will love it. So yeah.
Definitely go there myself also, and thank you so much. This is I'll definitely go look see.
Yeah. Well, this brings to my last question, which I always ask whoever I speak to. I would like to know your 5. So what I mean by that is I would like to know one book that either because you've read a lot in the last couple of months or previously as well, one book that not only I would say changed your life, but really I would say inspired you to do something or brought out something, or really I would say opened that emotional box of just loving your life, your son, your work. It could be anything, like basically any book that had a very profound impact on you, and that impact of course could be subjective. One song that gets you going. So the song, it could be something that pumps you up, something is like your morning dose of coffee, or is basically your resort to when life is just not going the way you expect it to. Third is one food item that you love to gorge on, and again this could be comfort food, this could be sometimes you indulge in, which is very rare, or this could be something you love cooking with your son or yourself because you just started cooking out of the for it as well. 3 I covered, right? So the 4th is a movie that you have always found a lot of comfort in. So for me, I'll always go back to the classics or the 90s because I like calling myself a 90s kid. And the last is something that you've read, or maybe a line or a quote, or something that somebody told you in your life. It could be somebody you know personally, or somebody you look up to, or somebody you met through your work, and something that they said that really stuck with you. So 5 things. I'll repeat them, of course, if you want, but just, I think it's a book, it's a song, it's a movie, it's food, and it's that one line which maybe stuck with you.
Sure. Chhaya book, several books, really. But one book that I swear by, and you're going to find a lot of this funny, perhaps contradictory also, paradoxical. Catch 22. I love that book. Have you read it? Joseph
I
Heller's.
I've heard a lot about it. It's on my list, but yes.
Do read it sometime when you have a little time on your hands.
Yeah.
It every time you read the book, it gives you new insights. It's got I think the weirdest and the best sense of humor that you can, and it doesn't make you laugh through every page, but the humor hits you. It's it's in a different league altogether. So Catch 22 by Joseph Heller is, I would say, my favoriteest. Really, judge me, no problem. But yeah.
I've heard a lot about it. Definitely on my list. Yeah.
So, but other than that, there are many books. There is Khalil Gibran, of course. There are many authors who've influenced me, and there is Eckhart Tolle, and then there are so many. Marshall Goldsmith. Whenever in my during my lows in life, I found, and I don't know how this sounds, but the truth is that I found that self-help books, they definitely help you. They are a pick-me-up. So I have gone back to them unabashedly, I'd admit. They have helped, definitely. What else? I like to read a lot of novels, so Thousand Splendid Suns, all of that. A lot of all of these books. Song. See, I love Punjabi folk and I love Indian classical. So that's where I come from. That's in my family roots. So, I'll say you'd have to give me a little time on the song.
We can always come back to this. Yeah.
Food. When I was food, I'm not a foodie really. I don't enjoy food, but with my son, I've started to appreciate food a lot and understand food. I like Italian. I like Chinese. I like, but nothing to beat dal chawal and gobi aloo ki sabzi is my favorite. Sorry, very boring choice, but yeah.
Really, for me, it's khichdi. Especially, one, because I can also make it. Second, because it's also comfort food. And pulao as well. When I was in London for a year, pulao used to be the easiest thing to make. And also very nutritious and very, I would say, filling as well. And so I'll put my mom on video call and, she'll tell me, namak itta, mirch itni. And it will be a very shared experience. And eventually I'll eat it, of course, thinking that, I made it with her and for her as well. So yeah, of course, home food and I would say ghar ka khana is something which is, I would say, trumps everything else.
Yeah, trumps everything else. So food, I've told you. What else did you say? And I was sweet tooth, so anything sweet.
Yeah.
I shouldn't.
I will completely, I would say, buy out the whole shelf because they have these delicious, scrumptious cakes. And my mouth is watering now, but still, yeah. Next was movie, and the last was the quote that has really stuck by you.
Movie, I think a couple of movies. Okay, I'll tell you one. Hidden Figures is a very inspiring film. Definitely. I don't know if you watched it.
No, my mom has watched it, and she recommended it to me a couple of times.
Watch it, Chhaya. It's a very inspiring film. It's on Netflix. It's just out of the world. You must watch if you have.
Maybe today itself, yeah.
Angry Men is a very powerful film. David Lean's 12 Angry Men. That's a very powerful film. I love it. So many films. What else? Hindi films, all of Rishikesh Mukherjee, or everything of Rishikesh Mukherjee, I've just loved, and I can watch it at any point in time. Okay, so movie's done. What else?
The last is the quote. That's something that's really stuck by you. You might have read it somewhere, somebody you look up to, anybody, or it could be words of the wise, or maybe somebody from your family, or it could be any, like, words that stuck by you. And if you want, we can always circle back to the song that you were thinking on.
See, words that one of the great, I may not be able to quote it verbatim right now, but one of the from you, they are not of you. Basically, you don't own your children, but you've got to give them wings, and they are in the world to do other things. That. And did I mention Jonathan Livingstone Seagull as one of my favorite books when I was growing up, very young in school, I think class 6 or 7 when I read it, or maybe later. I don't remember, but school time definitely. So that, so that has had a very big impression, that book and this quote together. They've had such a profound impression on me and effect on me that I've actually brought up my son. And when I work with my younger colleagues, I do not treat them as children, of course, but there is definitely that, it always comes back to me that I have to give them their own space. They have to find their own way of expressing themselves, of performing, of excelling. And I just have to be there to kind of, support them and, see them basically flower. So I think that has been very impressionable. However, I can send you that quote because I know exactly what I'm talking about. I may not be able to quote it verbatim right now.
I think it would, I would say, complement this conversation very well when, of course, we share it on a magazine as well. And that quote could sort of, highlight this, of course, the whole conversation as well. What about the song? Were you able to get back to it?
See, okay. So I'll just sing a line if काहे तरसाई जियरा काहे तरसाई जियरा जियरा something. So this is one of my favorites.
Who's it by?
Huh?
Who's the song by?
This is by Lata, and I think her sisters sang as well because it's a duet. Usha Mangeshkar and Lata. It's O's own number. I'll send you the link if I find it.
No, of course. Well, with that, I can't tell you how I would say spiritual and very so soulful this conversation has been with you. I really appreciate that you let your guards down and you were able to talk to me candidly. And because eventually Bharat is expression, and we were exploring that through this conversation as well. I do hope you enjoyed the process. And before your concluding remarks, I would just like to thank you once again. I've loved every single conversation of ours, and I've learned so much from you, and I hope to do that on a daily basis. And yeah, thank you so much for taking out the time and having a chat with me.
Chhaya, I cannot thank you enough. I enjoy interacting with, enterprising, young, enthusiastic, courageous, brave people like you. I'm saying brave because entrepreneurship itself is it's a journey of the brave. It's not everybody's cup of tea. And, and you're doing it every day. I have so much respect. I have so much regard for it. It's just, and I'm not making any of this up. This is who I am, and I totally mean every word of what I'm, saying. It's just such a pleasure just to interact with you. Thank you so much for your time. Your questions were so lovely. This way I talk. I do not know any other way of, imposing tact and speaking in measured or whatever. So this is it, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.